This is Primitive Outfitting, and you are listening to the Gritty Bowmen.
Chicken, wow, wow.
Wow.
Nice.
And I'm not standing on my high horse saying I shoot a self bow, because there's no way in hell I'm shooting a self bow. When I say that, I mean that in a good Christian way.
As far as Cecil goes with me, I mean, I could really give a crap about that lion too much.
And all I was looking at was the tip of Aron's arrow. And it was like this and this, and then it was kind of shaking, and then it went boom, solid like a rock. And I'm like, oh.
He's like, I got to know if you hit anything or not. You never really show excitement, because I don't. I'm kind of always mellow. And this thing, ready to jerk a tear. I was running around like an idiot. Woo! You know, if you ever talk to anybody from Africa, they're all about hunting lions because they eat people. Yeah. The compound, I have total confidence. With this thing, I'm like, yeah, maybe. But the way that America works, we're so soft, like softer than baby. All of us, basically.
The shooting errors, I'm going to call it Matrix effect. I panicked.
It's cool new gear we've come across, and we'll learn more about some of it. And
I'm a gearhead anyway.
You're a dork.
Yeah, anything that's going to increase my happiness by a little bit. If I could get dehydrated Copenhagen, I would do it.
Isn't it already dehydrated?
No, not really.
Not
I mean, it's still pretty moist. I mean, I chew snuff, which is like worm dirt. Most guys, I'll just say it out. If you're not chewing snuff, you got to step up your chew game. It's worm dirt, so it's hard to pack. And so if you looked at Frank after putting in snuff in, it's all over his face, right? It's up in his lips. He's got some over here. It's on his lap. Where I'll four-finger that thing. No problem at all, but I'm varsity. Not that that's something to be proud of, but I'm on a new level when it comes to chewing.
I was gonna say,
top lip, bottom lip.
We do get a lot of emails about people asking you to maybe quit. Yeah.
My mom told me nobody likes a quitter. I do need to quit. I added it up right now. Copenhagen, since I started, I'm probably up to about 80 grand. A can a day.
Plus all the interest you could have made.
Yeah, a can a day since 1995. So that's anywhere at the time I started chewing, it was like $2 a can, especially on post at the PX, to where now it's expensive to kill yourself. It's $5 in the Northwest Territories in Norman Wells, $39 freaking dollars a can in Norman Wells. Canadians want you to die poor, basically.
All right, folks, welcome to the Gritty Bowmen podcast on this
Saturday, Brian.
Saturday.
On that note, Brian called me. I was at the house. I thought he was coming by my house. He's like, "Are you at Kafaru?" I'm like, "No, I'm at home." Oh, and I'm like, "Brian, it's Saturday." And he thought it was Friday.
I did. I thought it was Friday. This hasn't happened to me in a very long time. I'm usually on it, but see, the kids have had spring break, and so it's just been chaos. It's thrown me off what day of the week it is.
It has been a hectic schedule with cardio and podcasts and editing and everything else.
Speaking of which, seems like there's a lot of cardio volume of workouts lately. Like every dang day.
Yeah, we do. I've been going every day. I lift in the morning, but I do cardio at night.
On the days when I try to do CrossFit, heavy workout, and then do cardio, I struggle. And then there's usually a couple days of workout soreness that isn't going away like it normally does.
I'm good. I'm not doing CrossFit, though. I do my own workout in the morning.
Yeah, normally I'm working out in the garage, but I've been hitting Lakewood CrossFit once or twice a week.
I think it's CrossFit Lakewood.
Same thing.
Yeah, I know. I get it confused, too. Yeah.
Shanley makes me feel guilty because I don't show up and, push myself.
Yeah, I think she learned with me. It's probably not good to push me because then I just push it. She's funny because I think she realized that I can walk faster than maybe she initially assumed, because the one time she ran by me, I was like kind of in awe, right? I'm like, she's running by me on the steepest portion of this trail. But I'm very, the pace or whatever, I'm pretty good about judging. Okay, we got this much distance. I think I can catch her in this distance. Don't crap out and give too much. And she's got little legs, so I passed her immediately after. And she made the comment a few days later. I think you told her, or Frank did, pass him. And she goes, no. I'm not going to, because then he just walks faster. I tell you what, though, Aron, I can't remember Aaron's last name. It is difficult for me to keep up with Aron. In fact, his pack, he screwed it up, thank God, on the last go-round. And it was all crooked, and thank God painful, because otherwise I don't think I would have beat him at the end. We ended up sprinting the last couple hundred yards, and if his pack wasn't so crooked and bouncing around, I'm not sure I would have beat him. He's a machine.
Yeah, collegiate. Wasn't he collegiate cross country?
Cross country track, yeah.
And track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He likes pain. So it doesn't mean a whole lot to me when someone says collegiate. You know what I mean? That means they're a good athlete. But when you like pain, that adds a whole new level. And and for me, with 45 or 50 pounds, I can hold my own pretty well for a fat kid.
Yeah.
And with that guy, the first time we went, he stayed with me the whole way, to a point where I'm like, I'm pretty sure he could have walked faster. That sucks.
Pretty sure.
And then the next day, we went at night, and he sprinted. He took off, and generally that doesn't bother me. I'm pretty quick, and I caught him, right?
Yeah.
He just kicked it into another. He just shifted to third. I was like, fudge. And he looked like a gazelle or a giraffe, right? His legs are so long.
Yeah.
And I can sprint, right? So I caught him, and I was maybe 8 to 12 yards. And he heard my footsteps, and at that time I was a full-on sprint. He just kicked it into another gear, and I was like, I'm just gonna start walking, because I can't keep up. And we'd already went 5 miles probably, and with 50, 60 pounds. I mean, he had 60, and but then like the next time we went, and the dude's got like 36 7-inch inseam. We're going up the side of this hill, and I'm watching his feet. With Amy had went ahead, right? So she's at the top watching. And we made that corner on the fly road, and I was watching his feet thinking, God, don't run. Just don't run. Please don't run. And he didn't, and we finished at the same time.
Yeah.
And he had talked about, we talked about both. It's nice to push each other, but I'm thinking there's days I may not invite you, because I don't want to work this hard. But we were, that day, 400 yards, 300 yards ahead of everybody else.
Yeah.
But yeah, yesterday, the only thing that saved me to either tying or beating him was the fact his pack was all screwed up, or the day before, whatever.
Which is something we need to go over sometime, because I was watching him climb that hill, and my heart went out to him. I was feeling bad for him.
It didn't bother me a bit. I was walking.
It was like
to the left.
It was slapping him in the butt as he walked, and it was loaded wrong.
It was loaded crooked,
and it was hanging sideways, and he kept shoving his left arm to try to.
Well, he didn't have a load lifter hooked up at all on one side.
They were completely relaxed.
It was bad. But I looked to the left, and I'm like, I'm not going to stop and fix it. We'll fix it later. And at the one point, he looked at me. He's like, "You want to run?" And that was at one of those steep long points. I was like, "Yeah, if you want to." And we ran maybe 150 yards, but that's at a, what do you think, 25-degree angled slope or something? I don't know what that is. And we stopped, and I looked over, and I was like, wow, his pack is worse now than it was, because everything had bounced loose. Of course, who knows how fast he'll be now, because I fixed it all, and it was, now he'll probably crush me.
But I see that a lot now that we're doing these backpack hikes, once or twice a week with big groups of people that come. Almost need to have a pack fitting class, because geez, man, I'm looking at how some people have them adjusted, and they're just not maximizing that backpack's.
Well, and that's what we wanted to do on, this podcast. I'll grab a frame here. Just kind of a general, idea. Guideline. And then we'll go over it into more depth on another one is, when you look at a pack, you've got some, and we've talked about this before, but when you have the frame here, you've got load lifters, which are up here. You've got more or less these straps down here, which are kind of a stabilizer strap, and they hook back into the bag or the frame. Try to do this correctly. And that just sucks up the bottom of the bag to the tension you want, depending on how full or empty the pack is and how much movement you want out of it. Now, when you're figuring out, torso length, and we're just going to brush over this for something for people to think about. Your torso length is from the top of your iliac crest to your hip bone to your C7 vertebrae. We figured out a little differently at Kafaru off your height and your inseam. But what that idea is the distance, and the most layman's basic way to figure it out is the distance from your belt to the length of these shoulder straps to match up to your body. That's a very redneck way of explaining it. And so that's where the adjustment of these shoulder straps come into play, of how tall they'll be adjusted. That also has to do with how tall the frame is that you get, whether it be from Kifaru or anybody else. And then you have the load lifter angle, which has to do with your height, but also has to do with what you're doing at that specific time. Meaning, if you're 6'1" and you're 32-inch inseam or a 19.5-inch torso, and you're packing in 80 pounds, you're going to want a pretty steep load angle. Pack's going to sag a little bit. But later on that day, when you're carrying a 20-pound day pack, you probably don't want that load lifter angle to be quite so steep. You want it to be more of a stabilizer because you want it to be sucked to your body more for less movement.
Turn the pack sideways and show me that angle that you're talking about.
So it's actually, get that lid out of the way, from the top of the frame, the angle down to where it hooks up at the shoulder strap on the body. Mm-hmm. So if you can imagine, that's a pretty steep angle here, but if the guy's taller, the shoulder strap is up. Not a very steep angle. Again, kind of a redneck way to explain it, but
that angle makes a huge difference between where the weight sits on your body.
It does, and I'm going to get this pack out of the way, but what people need to think about, and what Brian and I wanted to talk about today is, you'll get some guys that are super tall, like Aron. What's Aron, 6'6", 6'7"?
Yeah.
Hey, he's really tall. Jason Phelps, another guy, he's got a really long torso. And what that says is there's no day pack that is going to give him shoulder lift. And that's where people get a little bit confused. When you talk, and this is with any pack, not just with, Kifaru, whether it's a Stone Glacier XO, Mystery Ranch, whatever. Sometimes each individual's body that company's pack, it's not the pack's fault that it's not going to fit that person. And it could be on the other end of the spectrum, a short person. If you get somebody super short, now in the case of Kifaru, we have 3 different frame sizes, so we can get most people to fit. But if you get a really short person and they go out and they buy a Horn Hunter, I think it's a full curl, which is big kind of a frame pack. It's not going to fit her. She's 5'1", whatever, 30-inch inseam. She's not going to fit her. But if you go to a guy that's 6'6" and he's got a 34-inch inseam, 35, his torso's roughly 22 inches long. He's not going to fit into just about anything it's a day pack. He's going to need a big framed pack, and that's where then you have to, in case of like Kifaru, to make sense of it all, if you're 6'2", 34-inch inseam, and you want a day pack, but you want it to be able to haul heavy weight, you're going to have to put a small bag on a big frame. You're not going to be able to buy something like from us, a 14 or a little day pack, and get it'll handle the weight. It won't break, but it's not going to be able to lift that shoulder strap off your shoulder and transfer that weight down to your hip bone. It's not the pack's fault, and it's not your fault. It's just most day packs don't have tall frames. So that's where, in our case, we sell a 26-inch frame. We'll put a 22 mag on it, or a cargo net, or a whatever, Woodsman, and somebody can run a day pack and still carry heavy weight. So we've been getting a lot of questions about that, and not just with, Kifaru packs, but hey, I bought pick one, a Stone Glacier, and I'm too short in the frame. I can't get it to fit me. That's not to say a Stone Glacier won't fit a short person. It's generally in the adjustment. You're going to have to shorten those shoulder straps up quite a bit, and then make sure that your load lifter angle isn't crazy, crazy steep, because if it is, you kind of get to a point where it's a negative return, or, which I say all the time, you're driving a semi-truck through the drive-through. It can be done, but it's going to be pretty damn hard to make that corner and not take out the awning. It's going to be a problem. So things to think about, just as advice. We wanted to cover the load lifter thing, and then size of a pack for the duration of hunt. Those were the 2 big things. Generally for me, 3 days or less, 35 to 4,000 cubic inches or ish, or a little less than that for a three night trip. Now, you ran a DT2 for just about everything for a while.
Yes.
And then I got you, I got you a Woodsman now, and I got a Reckoning on the way. But that's 5,200 example of DT2. we were able to do it on the elk hunt because we packed in stuff ahead of time.
Yeah.
But when you're looking, these are general numbers, people. I don't need a guy to come on and say I did 7 days with a 3,200 cubic inch pack. I'm proud of you, and other people are too. These are general numbers for people to just base an idea off of. 3 days, somewhere 4,000 cubic inches, 3,500 in that neighborhood. When you go up to 5 days, because the increase in food, you're looking at 42 to 5,200 roughly, depending upon how much meat you can pack out. Anything after 5 days, you get up in that 7 day range, you're going to want 6,500 cubic inches plus. General rule of thumb, though, I know a lot of guys that do 7 days with a 5,200 cubic inch pack, and they do fine. But as a general rule, once you get into that 7+ day, you're going to want 6,500 to 8,000 cubic inches with pockets and everything else if you don't want a lot of stuff strapped to the outside of the bag.
And if you do film work, throw all that out the window.
Yeah, but pretty much. People, Kevin Underwood, he just ordered a pack from us. He's a super lightweight guy, kind of a guy. Very, very knowledgeable dude. But to take advice from Kevin would be like taking advice from you and I if we were giving a general gist, meaning Kevin is so far on one end of the spectrum. I think he said he did 7 days in a 3,200 cubic inch pack or something ridiculous. Our camera gear.
On like 17 pounds or something.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
He's minimalist as you can get.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And he's a very good source of information if you want to go lightweight. Now, with the ultralight weight comes some pain. Now, he may say it doesn't. I will say it, Kevin, you're lying. There's no way you're going to be as comfortable at an 18-pound pack for 5 to 7 days as I am with a 42-pound pack because I have more food. I have a bigger sleeping pad. I have a toothbrush, a lot of Copenhagen. I got more coffee. I mean, I got everything. So, but again, and not. Yeah, I like Kevin. He's a very, very resourceful guy.
It depends what you want, what kind of experience you're going for. And for a lot of guys, having no weight makes up for the comforts.
But you need to have a good field craft without weight. When you drop that much weight,
you better know how to start a fire.
Yeah, you better know what you're doing, which Kevin obviously does. He's a great woodsman. You come to the other end of the spectrum, we have really lightweight gear, Brian and I, but we know what we're doing, but we also have this giant, horrendous pile of camera gear. So we go in for 5 days, it'd normally be 38 pounds or something.
Yep.
Well, that automatically goes to about 50. I'd say, or a little more.
Yeah, it's a little less with photography, a little bit more with film.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The only thing I have over Brian and Wade is I've got a 5D Mark IV Canon, and that's a little heavier than your Sony, which is an A7S II. But and I usually have inherently heavy wide angle lens, but you have an inherently heavy zoom for filming.
Yep.
But you have more batteries by far. But then we, tripods and everything else. But what I'm, with that,
it's just another 15 to 20 pounds of camera gear.
And it sucks.
And take up space.
Yeah. Oh, a lot of space. So a good way to look at it is if you want to go heavy and comfortable, be tougher physically to be able to handle the weight. If you want to go lighter, super lightweight, be tougher and ready to suffer. Or go without some creature comforts.
Yeah.
On that note, don't listen to what Kevin Underwood says or what Brian and I say as far as general rules of thumb of what we do in the sense of our packing list, because you're not going to be doing that probably. So, go ahead.
Yeah, the other thing I was going to say is, for me personally, I prefer a pack with lots of extra room, a large pack. Even when Aron and I do these kind of day things, I prefer the giant pack and just cinch it down. Aron likes to get a pack that's just right for what he's doing.
Well, I will say, and caveat there, that's because I get them free. I used to just carry a giant bag. In all honesty, I mean, I don't want to bullshit you. If I didn't get all these for free, I just carry a big bag. But I am in the position now where I can match the exact bag, the exact task at hand.
Yeah.
But I generally, I generally like if I had to go buy a bag today, it'd be a 7,000 plus cubic inch bag. I'd day hunt it. I do everything with it.
Yeah.
And that's what I used to do for the most part.
One thing I can say, having come on this a lot later than Aron is, and learning more. When the first time I met Aron was at the Northwest Sportsman Show, I think it was January 2015.
Yeah.
And I threw a pack on. I had a $900 setup that I had bought from Kafaru, 2 years before.
Yeah.
And it actually had a bikini frame on it. A lot of things that I and I used it a lot, and I was like, man, this is amazing. But I knew, I wanted to make sure I had it done right, and I felt like
there was 70% there, 75.
Yeah.
I would say. I remember.
And I have Aron check it out, and man, when he readjusted it, and in fact, it turned out that the frame was I was better off with a 26-inch.
Brian's all back. He's got short little legs.
Yeah, which really shines when we hike that fire road. On a tangent, by the way, I have learned that I am much better on stairs like the Red Rocks Amphitheater.
You kicked ass the other day on that because it was more of a CrossFit thing.
Yeah,
you could burst and then rest, burst and rest.
Right. The interval style works very well for me. And I've noticed that Tower Trail is the same. Going vertical is better for me than going long strides on a gradual incline. And the fire road's a gradual incline, and just about that hike crushes me far more than the tower is long and grinding, but it's something about stepping upward, like on stairs.
Yeah,
that I feel like my anatomy
it built for that.
It leverages that. But the steps, dude, you guys go so far. I was telling Aron today, I have sore muscles. And I think what's my butt, but I can't tell because it's connected so high on my back.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny because I did a podcast with Bow Junkie with Greg.
Yeah,
and he was asking about that, and we're not, none of us. We're all fire breathers for the lead group.
Yeah.
But I was trying to explain with Greg where some people excel at certain aspects of a day than others, meaning if we do the Tower Trail, fire road, stairs, or a long loop, everybody's got their own special sauce or what they do better. And you definitely, you could tell because you were right there in the lead group or ahead on the stairs, where you're not like that on the fire road.
When I'm on the fire road, you leave the parking lot and it's pretty flat all the way up until you start to hit the first hill.
And it's an angle like, I don't know what the degree is. I would say
it's not steep.
16 to 25.
Yeah, it's a nice gradual angle.
Yeah.
And I swear, every guy just walks faster than me. And I have found that it's better for me to let everybody get about 20 yards ahead of me and then run and catch up and then walk and then run and catch up and walk. And that's kind of how I have to do it. I've tried stepping it out like Aron, and I'm working on that. But man, I get it. It sucks my.
That's what screwed my IT band up, was stepping it out like that too often and not stretching it, lengthening that IT band from the stretcher. That's what I was told.
It's unreal how you hike like that, and
genetically, I'm not long-legged, but I have worked on, probably from too many 12-milers in the Army, lengthening my stride to where Aron's stride isn't that much longer than mine. And my inseam is 33 inches. His is 36. Yeah, and we're pretty close.
The thing is you make it look easy. Like,
it's a lot of walking, a lot of practice.
A lot of walking.
But the other thing, to get a little bit back, is the pack being adjusted for me perfectly makes a big difference.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. We're at the Northwest Sportsman Show. I hand you the pack. We readjust it. I learned a lot about how it was supposed to fit. I was kind of doomed from the start because my pack frame wasn't tall enough.
Yep.
So there was very little I could really do to get the angle, a really good angle on the load lifter.
Yep.
And a few things around the hip that weren't right. And so Aron adjusted all of that, ended up getting a different frame. adjusting that, and wow, I mean, that kicked it to like another level. And now when I throw a pack on, it just feels, I just adjust it right, and it just feels incredible.
Well, and not to poke fun at some of the people on Insta, Google, Tweet Face, but when you see a guy that has a pack on and says most comfortable pack I've worn, and I'm looking at it, and the top of the frame's below his shoulders, for example, it's not compressed well, so there's no load lifter angle. The belt is riding below his hip bones. Basically, what that tells me is one, you're full of you said it, full of shit. Two, you don't know what you're talking about, and three, you're just promoting something. You got it because it was new. If you want to do that, that's fine. But it gives a bad perception to other people about to purchase gear, and they think that's okay.
Well, I think part of that too is I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. I think sometimes people like that don't know that it's wrong.
I think most of the time they don't know. I think you're right, but don't promote what you don't know, in the sense of, not that I'm getting down on that person, but other people will follow that person and then buy a product, and I hate to see people waste money. Is what it boils down to. What you really want to do is talk to somebody that actually knows, whether it be me or the guys that, Kurt from Stone Glacier is a great resource. Stone Glacier is a great company. Ask those guys and base it off of your decision in buying a pack off your body type, your size, and what you're going to be doing with it, and not so much what other people may say or do. There's a lot of misinformation.
Yeah, I agree.
And people get excited when they buy new gear. I understand that.
And back when I started the podcast, I shared what I knew. Mm-hmm. So I don't want people to be discouraged from sharing what they know. But I made it very clear, I feel like, that say, look, I'm no camera expert by any stretch.
Yeah.
This is what I've learned. It's a little bit of stuff I've learned. This is what I'd recommend. Mm-hmm. Now I look back, it was useful at the time for guys at that level or below where I was at. Right. But it was useless for anybody with more experience.
Yeah, no, and
as long as you kind of learn a little bit along the way, it's okay for you to go out and share what you know. But I would make sure that you give people an idea of where you're coming from in terms of your expertise.
Yeah, where your pedigree, basically, what you got. And I only say that because I hate to see people waste money, and a lot of that comes from me answering the phone all day long from people that are kind of poor that are spending some money on nice
internet
gear.
is full of overnight experts right now, and so it's very easy to for a guy to go out and act like he knows it all when he really doesn't. One thing I wanted to ask you really quick with the pack was something that really helped me was getting an idea of I don't know what this adjustment is.
Basically, that 3-bar slider, what it is on our pack is where it comes off the top of the frame and then attaches to the shoulder strap.
The load lifter.
It's the load lifter. Where the load lifter attaches to the shoulder strap, that should be pretty much in line with your clavicle, plus or minus. That's textbook. I run mine below my clavicle. That's where it's comfortable for me.
So that was one thing that I wanted people to know is if this 3-bar slider is up here on top of your shoulder or way down here in front of in your armpit or something, then that's like a red flag that something isn't right with your adjustment.
Right. And
there's a second part I wanted to say was, where should the strap, because
the sternum strap?
No, the shoulder strap, because I'll see guys with this buckle here.
Yeah.
This cinch up here.
Yeah, that's
up super high instead of down lower, and so that lets you know that the strap, that your shoulder strap is also not in the correct position. So there's a few things. Where can people go to see some fitting on Kifaru?
Just Kifaru Tube, and then it's on YouTube. Yeah, and then go to Kifaru Tube, and you can always email or call me. But what I can say, and I don't mind answering questions about backpacks from other companies, but honestly, that puts me in a very difficult position, because if you just bought a brand new pack from another company and they can't get you fitted, it puts me in an awkward position to have to tell you that pack is never going to fit you, because it becomes bashing kind of, or whatever. So not saying don't ask the question, but if it's a newer pack and it's from a newer company, call the company that manufactured it and made it. But if if you have a pack and you're taller and your shoulder straps are lengthened as far out as they can, and your ladder locker tensioner to that shoulder strap is way up, up into your armpit or above, and the load lifter angle attachment point is up on top of your trap or behind towards your neck, the pack's just never going to fit you correctly. There's no way around it. So, and that's when I see, guys that are red flags where there's an individual very well known in the industry that I talked to at the Western Hunt Expo, and I was like, hey, dude, I can do you a solid if you want to send that to me. I know it's not our pack, but the load lifter strap was coming off his shoulder strap and rubbing him in the neck pretty bad. There's nothing, nothing wrong with the company that built that pack. It's just not fitting him correctly. And you may have to hack it yourself a little bit or work on it yourself or do some aftermarket sewing if you run into those problems. As long as you can get the shoulder strap, load lifter, angle, belt, all those things to fit, you're usually on the home stretch and you're going to be all right. But I definitely would not be afraid, whether it be a Kafaru or another company's pack. If it's not fitting correctly, don't give up on it immediately. You may it's maybe just an adjustment.
Yeah.
Now, if you run through all the adjustments and it doesn't fit or whatever, then you're kind of screwed at that point. But definitely torque the pack and learn the system, whether it be ours or anyone else's. Figure out how to adjust it. Figure out why the adjustments are there, what they're doing. So that way, you know your equipment. You always want to know your equipment, and that's one thing you've done is you've learned quite a bit on our system as well as others of what it's supposed to feel like, what it's supposed to look like, and why. And that's something I really stress for people to do.
Yeah. The other thing I see a lot of people do is cinch it way high.
Yeah, that's bad.
Instead of down on their hips. And part of that is because the frame still isn't quite long enough.
And it's some people, military guys especially, get used to carrying weight on their shoulders. They get our pack and it's not supposed to be on your shoulders.
Yeah.
And they're like, dude, this thing's not it's burning my butt. And I'm like, rubbing it raw? No, my butt's on fire. Well, it's because they've been so used to carrying all the weight on their shoulders, they're not getting that same feel of carrying it on their hips. Nothing wrong with that. They're just not used to it. That's when I adjust the shoulder straps for them to go 50-50 rather than 70-30, meaning 50 hips, 50 shoulders.
I like to carry a little more on my shoulders than on my hips as well.
And I noticed that. I don't ever say anything because it's so. Now, Patrick, he's a super anal retentive on that. He'll stop on a dime like, son, that's not right. And he'll tell you. But because there's just times that I'll carry it on my shoulders and hips.
Yeah.
That if that's a textbook, gets thrown out the window when it comes to personal preference. Once a person knows the system, knows that it's adjusted correctly, and is choosing to run it one way or another, that's their own personal preference. I mean, I'm not gonna. Guy wants to hunt in tennis shoes, by all means. If he likes it, I'm not going to stop him.
Well, and then as you get used to it, you can shift the load around. Yep. That's the thing that's beautiful about it is you can carry more on your shoulders, or you can say, "Hey, my shoulders are done." Move it to the hips, and you can do that. And we often change weight distribution as we're hiking out a heavy load.
I just say even on cardio days, you'll see me screwing with my pack. In fact, if you want to know when I'm about to run, I'm basically flicking my load lifters loose, letting the pack sag. When you see me crank the belt down, crank the shoulder straps down, and re-crank the load lifters, I'm getting ready to run.
Yeah, you just dropped it.
I just dropped it down. I want all that weight as much as possible on my shoulders. I want those load lifters tight. Don't really care that there's any weight on my hips or not. I just want it to be stable because I don't want the pack shaking left and right. I want that thing sucked to my back. The moment we're done, I reverse it, suck it back up, and get it off my shoulders because my shoulders they'll burn out. I mean, I can handle pain for a while, but if it's not needed, then I don't do it.
Yeah.
So
one more thing, real quick rundown, because there's a lot of people joining us on these hikes, and I'm getting all of us getting texts all the time and messages from guys that are even hitting it the stadiums like in Florida and Alabama.
It's awesome. Oh yeah, guys getting after it everywhere.
So the thing about that is the other issue is you got a great pack, you've got it fitted, it's on there right. The other thing that you see guys really, really messing up on is loading.
Yeah.
They add weight. So what are some weights you like to put in your backpack for training, and how do you load it? Because like last night, the other night,
I'm going to go grab a sandbag. I'll be back.
Okay.
I can't remember the guy's name, the company of the sandbags. Hopefully he's listening and he can chime in, but they're awesome sandbags. I'm gonna go grab one.
Grab one.
And we're back. So, again, I was supposed to help this guy promote these because I like the system so much. Typical Snyder 8 months ago, right? I had some high-res photos. I can't remember the guy's name or what he's going to call the company. I hope he hops on the podcast.
Is there any label in here?
No, there's not. I looked. I mean, they're made in the USA, and it's very ingenious. It's just a tube with a small opening you fill with pea gravel or sand, and it's vertical and it's skinny so it doesn't lump into the bottom of the bag. It looks like a big hot dog is what it looks like. He sends 3 of them.
It's almost like the concept behind a tag bag when you're filling it with meat.
Yep.
Right? It takes that substance that can just fall in a giant pile and keeps it vertical.
And they're about, I can't remember, I think they were 24 pounds each or 22. And basically this, on a normal day where I stuff it with sleeping bags, I'm carrying about 35 pounds with the bags and whatever else I got in the pack. Double it up, I'm getting up there towards 60, depending. And when I want to go real crazy, I'm over 80 with all 3. And I put them in a triangle, 1, 2, and then 3 in front. I have 1 away from my back more. This is what I'm using right now. I gave you one. I gave Mike, Big Mike, Muskie Mike, Big Mike Naughton.
Yep.
Mike's got the other one. But I just generally, no matter what, I have one of these on me. What I don't want, or what we're talking about, you do not want that weight sagging in at the bottom of the pack. So generally what I do, and we make jokes about Aaron's pack stuff with sleeping bags, it is, right? Whatever I have in that is surrounded with sleeping bags, whether it be the old standard, I had a 50-pound bag of sand duct taped. I'd lay my pack on the ground with the bag going up. I'd stuff that in there to where that weight's right against my back, and I would just start cramming sleeping bags at the bottom and all around that. Now, by the time it was done, it added another 12 pounds, which I didn't care, but that bag of sand would stay there, and then I'd compress the piss out of the bag. You want that weight basically elevated 6-8 inches from the bottom of your pack, right up against your back, centered. You don't want it left or right, and compressed, to keep it stable. With this, it kind of does all that for you. But
I have a barbell and plates and stuff at home, and, so I'll use this, but I also will grab like a 45-pound plate, and what I do is, on my big bag, is I just cinch off the bottom half of it, just super tight.
Yeah.
And I got locking, what do you call those? Auto lock buckles.
Yeah.
So they stay in place very well. So I'll cinch the auto lock buckles, and I'll even have a bag or something toward the bottom just to try to help with supporting the weight. But when I slide the plates in, they kind of stay up, like you said, 6 inches off the bottom.
Yeah.
And they're nice and flat against your back.
Yeah.
So it's almost leverage wise, you can weigh the pack and it'll say he's carrying 65 pounds. But because of the way the plates are, it kind of feels more like 50
It's almost part of your body. Yeah.
Yeah. So
closer
then it
to your
makes
back,
you,
the better.
Makes you look more badass than when you pack it like Aron does. And except that your pack looks fuller.
Oh, my pack looks, it is stuffed. Which I do like that because it does simulate, a stuffed pack when you're going in. But, I may have 2 of those bags, which, maybe are 2,000 cubic inches. Mm-hmm. But then I have a 7,000 cubic inch pack stuffed with sleeping bags around it. Mm-hmm. I've always just done it that way. But I'm laughing because there was a guy I ran into on the fire road the other day when Amy and I went up. And he had 245 strapped on the meat shelf of a woodsman.
Yeah.
And he had been watching us. I think he assumed that's what we were doing. And I blew by him. And I said, "Hey, dude, nice pack." And, he's like, "Hey, you're the Kafaru guy." And he's a Gritty Bowmen. We start talking. Yeah. And I was like, "Dude, what are you doing?" I was like, "What are you carrying 90 pounds up this thing for?" I thought that's what you guys do. And I was like, "Hell no." I was like, a couple of times I've done it.
Yeah.
And he had it loaded correctly. I loaded very carefully. I was like, "Yeah, dude, you need to get rid of one of those 45s. That's horrible, especially coming back down." But he obviously must have thought we were all, Superman, because, he was hurting about halfway up.
I've done 65 a couple of times now.
At one time, I know you did. You had 64 or 5.
And honestly, once you get over 40, 65, it doesn't destroy me too much.
Yeah.
But over 65, you get 75, 80, and I start to like feel it.
Yeah, for me, I would have to say 40, I can do whatever I want. 50, I can still go pretty good and run when I need to. I get past 55, 60 for me.
Yeah.
Running's after.
Well, I kind of have a comfortable speed, and it's probably, I don't know, it's quite a bit slower. It's probably 60% your speed.
I can move out when I have to.
But I mean, your average speed with a 40-pound pack, my speed would probably be, if I just go my pace, which I feel like is a good pace, it's still 60% slower than your easy pace.
Yeah, I can walk fast.
Naturally,
I think it's all the road marches in the Army. In the 18th Airborne Corps, you got to do a 12-miler, I think, every 3 months with crappy boots, crappy pack.
Yeah.
But I will say, though, one thing before we finish this up, I get the question a lot about lightweight, bag combos, and whatever company you choose, do not pick that specific system, in my opinion, because of its weight. Meaning, if you're picking the system over the internet without testing them, meaning
you mean like this pack is 1 pound lighter than this pack.
Yeah.
That's what's going to make the difference between buying it or not buying it.
I only bring that up because the amount of people, without getting myself into trouble, that have bought another pack because of its weight, one company in particular, and they're selling them now to buy our pack because of that initial weight. Again, I'm not talking about Stone Glacier because they make a very good product.
The thing is if you've the way that my experience tells me, same way when I'm carrying plates up against my back, it gives me leverage. It makes a 65-pound load feel like a 50-pound load.
Yeah.
In the same way, that 1 pound difference in pack weight or often is the difference between making a 80-pound load feel like 60.
Yeah.
Or feel like 90.
Right, and that's exactly what I'm getting at is I can promise you when you get a pack that fits you, if it's a 2 pound increase from something else that, 2 pounds lighter, it's not going to matter if the pack is super comfortable. Now, I will say, you don't want a 14 pound, 12 pound empty backpack if you can keep from it. But, having a relatively lightweight pack that fits you is better than having an ultra lightweight pack that doesn't fit you or doesn't carry heavy weight well. That's not a sales pitch for Kifaru. That is a sales pitch for fitting and comfort. Just keep that in mind. And I'm only bringing that up because we're super busy at Kifaru right now. We're fielding lots of phone calls. Guaranteed every day I'm selling, I'm answering and fielding phone calls where I'm selling 5 packs from guys that own a brand new pack from last year that just killed them. And I ask every one of them that does that, why did you choose that pack? And it was the weight. Well, sometimes the money, but most of the time, because we are expensive, it was the weight of that specific pack, obviously in the marketing. So again, and before I get emails, I'm not talking about Stone Glacier. They make a great product because I do get guys, are you talking about Stone Glacier? Because Stone Glacier makes a lightweight frame. They make a good system. So that's something to think about if you're purchasing one. Don't buy it just because of the weight. Buy it for the durability and the comfort as well. Another
thing, we got a few comments from people about Piranha Zion pants. And I've got a few emails, and a couple guys did some homework, contacted Zion or Piranha to find out, if the cut was changed and stuff. Mm-hmm. And they said they didn't change the Zion cut. They changed a few other ones, so they fit a little differently, but they said the Zion is still the same. So I will beg to differ. I just tried to set on at Bentgate Mountaineering. Yeah. They were sucking my nuts up to my stomach. But these are cool Renegades here. Yeah.
It could be who's selling them. The spirit of full candor. Frank has 2 sets of the old version. One of them, he looks like Michael Jackson moonwalking. The other one fits great.
Yeah.
So it could be the cut, but the ones I tried on yesterday, which were the newest versions, were pretty tight on my quads.
Yeah.
And it could, dude, overseas, manufacturing overseas, it's a gamble.
Right.
If I could tell you the stories I could tell of dealing with some of the companies that I've dealt with, not in a negative way, but the big boat comes across and the pocket on your jacket is like 3 fingers, right? You can't put your hand in. It ain't going back over on the boat. They're not going to be like, hey, let me ship back $200,000 in jackets. But I would definitely, if the company's standing by it and saying they haven't changed, you should be good to go. But if you can try them on, if you get some nut huggers, don't say I didn't warn you. That's all I'm saying.
I got some the other day, and they were on sale, but they fit perfectly.
Yeah.
But I've been wearing the Cool Renegades too, and I like those.
I tell you what, I'm not pimping out Sitka, but no bullshit. Those new Ascent pants is probably one of that and that Kelvin Active jacket are 2 things I've been more excited about. One, again, being honest here, anytime I wore Sitka Ascent pants, it looked like I shit my pants. Before, I don't have a butt. It's not the pants' fault. Same with the Sitka Timberlines. We call it the plywood ass. The recut on Amy comments on it all the time. The new Timberline pants and the new mountain pants. She loves them. She's like, they make it look like you have a butt now.
Yeah.
Of course, this is a biased opinion. Anything that makes me look like I have a butt automatically goes up like tenfold in my happy book. The Ascent pants, same way. They have a new cut and they're super lightweight, which is obviously, it's good to support a hunting company. So that's one thing.
And you got those in solids, and you're wearing them all the time.
Oh yeah, they're nice. And I was talking to Brinker yesterday about that, and he was laughing at my non-existent ass. Is what he was laughing at.
I kind of have that's where the Cool Renegades don't quite fit as well as the Piranhas for me.
Yeah,
I kind of have a round, big booty.
Yeah.
So
Shanley tells me I just need to squat, and I'm like, I've squatted a lot. It just doesn't. Well, that'd be like,
that's
hey,
like,
dude, you need to bench press to get bigger boobs. It just doesn't happen. Right?
My cousin Ben, he has a pretty jacked chest. I don't think he's ever lifted a single weight or done a bench or a push up. That's just genetics.
Yep. Yeah. And at one time I squatted over 700 pounds. You could have put a penny on a marble on the top of my ass and it wouldn't have rolled anywhere. I mean, it just wouldn't have. So
another bit of gear, though, that we recently got, and you have a couple over there, is we got some knives that have been cool that you've been playing with. You might as well show those.
Yeah, and this mostly as redneck as this is, people were asking me for my backcountry knife system. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duct tape this. This is a Taito with this sword sheath to the sheath of the Izulu or Azula, however you want to pronounce it, from Essie. I'm going to take the belt clip off, tape those two together, and that's going to be my backpack hunting system. I may actually, for emergencies, even tape on some blades onto the other side of this, as redneck as that is. But with this one, the Taito, and what people were asking, and we talked about it a little bit, I like this better because, one, there is no handle, so the handle can't fall off. But if this gets gunked up at all, where the blade retention system is, on the Havalon, you had to clean it. It was kind of a pain. Where with this, you pop that blade off. It's super easy to clean. It's just right there. You can wipe it off with your finger. And that doesn't weigh. I think it's 1.5 ounces or something like that.
Yeah. It's pretty simple design. Kind of doesn't fail on you.
And guys were asking how big of a deal is it to have the weight of a handle. Very good question. It's not that big of a deal, but if I don't want a handle, why would I put one on? It's just common sense. I'm not a handle guy. Yeah,
I was gonna say. I mean, to make this as as lightweight as possible, why have it on there? But they do have it wrapped in 550 cord.
Yep,
and that works really. I've got mine wrapped in cord, so you got that extra cord laying around if you need it. Yep. But it's also it does provide all the grip you need, really.
Yeah, and this is this is from Essie. This is the Azula, and it doesn't have.
Is that the Azula 1 or the Azula 2?
This would be the 1, I think. I think the 2 is this is the standard Azula. Though the 2, I think, is the smaller version, and then there's one with a handle on it. Yeah. And honestly, I didn't pay that much. I liked all of them, so I bought all 3. I got the little one that I carry in my pack. It's a little bit smaller than this, and I've got the version with the micarta handle, which actually Amy stole from me. I think it's micarta handle. But this system for me for backcountry stuff is nice because if I got to do anything of any extraordinarily labor or force, I can run that Azula. If any kind of skinning, caping, flushing out the face, whatever, I'm going to use that Taito. So it's a good system.
I often use that to skin when it comes to like a joint,
Yeah,
and
you
I
did
want
that
to
last
crack it open. I want to cut off the hoof or whatever. You just want to pull out a real knife. That is just not what it's made for, the skinning blade. And you can get in there and pop some of that stuff off and
We talked about it a little bit
get
before.
on bone.
I've used a folding knife, a Benchmade for the most part for forever.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with a folding knife, but there was a few instances last year, one in a firewood situation crisis, that a fixed blade knife would have been super handy. And then in the case of the next trip I went out, northern Idaho is rough to build a fire. It just straight up is. And so it was handy having, I brought a fixed blade for that one. It was handy having a fixed blade.
The thing is I don't know a ton about bushcraft and stuff. I'm learning. I'm figuring some things out. I'm hanging out with Aron and learning along the way. I know a lot more than the average guy. But the cool thing about this company at Essie, and I talked to him yesterday, and they said that they do all kinds of, you're in the tactical world and in the survival world. Yeah. And this is a known brand in that space.
Well, and it's funny because when I ordered the knives,
yeah,
I don't know if they wanted to talk about this or not, but they saw my name, so they called me through the order forms, and they were like, "Hey, dude, do you want a discount?" And I'm like, "Nah, I'm solid. We all got to eat. It's no big deal." And they were like, "How come you haven't been running our knives? I thought you did." And I said, "Well, I did at one point a few years ago, but you guys aren't in the hunting world. They're not. They're getting in there now, which is cool." But I had explained to them, I'm like, if I'm going to support, use a brand, I would like it to benefit a company in the hunting community. Those guys are huge in the tactical bushcraft community. One of the things I like about with SE2 is they donate a lot to the veterans. They work a lot with tactical guys in general, meaning they send a lot of knives downrange to guys and help out a lot of soldiers, which is cool. And in general, I just like this knife. This knife right here, the specific Zulu, it's a badass knife.
And they have some dudes that get into survival. And they do these survival seminars.
They do I think land nav, survival, all kinds of stuff.
I heard it's brutal too, actually, like a sufferfest.
I will not be attending that.
But they show you how to use knives in different ways. And one thing that I really don't know enough about is the art of using a fixed blade versus why is a fixed blade so beneficial?
Yes, so on the fieldcraft side, bushcraft, it is where it comes in really handy. And it's funny, Scott Daniels and another guy from Washington were laughing at us, western, but the east side of the west side hunters, where we're carrying Havalons and foldable knives. And he was like, yeah, dude, why don't you go get fired with that folding knife? Let me know how it works for you in Washington. Because a lot of times you're taking it and hitting with a blunt object to basically, that dog has rabies. We got a dog that came to the window. He's drooling bad. It's like,
he's chasing that rabbit.
Oh, that's funny. Where you're using it to, split firewood, cut saplings, things like that. And the durability of the knife is inherently more important the farther west you go, in my opinion. In Colorado, you step on this broken dried stick and break it. And there's something dry no matter what in Colorado. When we were up, building a fire like in on Mount Baker, me and Pinch.
Yeah.
You got to pay attention, right? It's not like a one-done match thing. We had trioxane, and that's cheating, right? It's basically lighting, napalm, and you still have to pay attention. So that's where the bushcraft stuff, the more durable knives, come into play. As far as the Taito knife, I saw it on Instagram, and immediately I was like, because I had got my Havalon gunked up so much, and there was another company. Pretty much everybody's copied Havalon making a folding, interchangeable blade knife, but it gets gunked up and the blade wouldn't stay in. And I saw this, and immediately I'm like, okay, I'm ordering those because of how well it cleans. And this isn't it? It's not going to break.
It doesn't weigh anything either.
Yep.
Not that the Havalon was particularly heavy, but
and you can keep this in your pack without the blade on. You don't need the sheath,
right?
And then you just get the knives when you need them. But with this, what ended up being cool is the guy owned a Kafaru, which was even better. That I didn't find out till later. And then they're a smaller company and a super cool dude. So it's kind of a cool happenstance thing that that doesn't happen very often. Usually, it's not like where you buy a product and the company actually ends up being cool people. Sometimes it ends up being maybe the other way around.
Yeah.
So with Taito and Essie, it's been kind of a neat deal starting to talk to them and work with them, getting them in the industry a little bit more.
Yeah, it's cool new gear we've come across, and we'll learn more about some of it. And
I'm a gearhead anyway.
you're a dork.
Yep.
You're a gear, like,
Anything that's going to increase my happiness by a little bit. If I could get dehydrated Copenhagen, I would do it.
isn't it already dehydrated?
No, not really. I
quite.
mean, it's still pretty moist. I mean, I chew snuff, which is like worm dirt. Most guys, I'll just say it out. If you're not chewing snuff, you got to step up your chew game. It's worm dirt, so it's hard to pack. And so if you looked at Frank after putting in snuff in, it's all over his face, right? It's up in his lips. He's got some over here. It's on his lap. Where I'll four-finger that thing, no problem at all. But I'm varsity. Not that that's something to be proud of, but I'm on a new level when it comes to chewing. Top lip, bottom lip.
We do get a lot of emails about people asking you to maybe quit. Yeah.
My mom told me nobody likes a quitter. I do need to quit. I added it up right now. Copenhagen, since I started, I'm probably up to about $80,000. A can a day,
plus all the interest you could have made.
Yeah, a can a day since 1995. So that's anywhere at the time I started chewing. It was like $2 a can, especially on post at the PX. To where now it's expensive to kill yourself. It's $5 in the Northwest Territories. In Norman Wells, $39 freaking a can in Norman Wells. Canadians want you to die poor, basically.
One thing that I do think is very interesting is we all have our vices, right? And we will get people that are concerned about Aron's habit and would like to see him quit, as would I. But at the same time,
I can tell you not right now. It's
I can tell you
not going to happen.
I can tell you this, that that said, where Aron has that vice, he's extremely healthy in other areas of fitness, diet, what he takes into his system, clean eating, water, that kind of thing. And so it's like this oxymoron.
It's weird. People give me shit about it all the time. Like, oh, sugar's bad. Why don't you just go take another dip? And I'm like, hey, you got a point. I can't, I'm not going to argue with you. You're right. But yeah, it is 100% true. And I initially started on patrol. You choke on your spit, basically, when you fall asleep when you're on patrol. So that's how I started. And then started with Kodiak, horrible. Wintergreen, bad. And then when I went to Red Man. And it's funny, actually, I joined the Army. I was a 12 Bravo, a combat engineer. And we went down to West Point. And the cadets, I think their sophomore year, they have to pick what they're going to do their job once they go into the real Army. And so try to shorten this up, we had these, like we would do these battle breaches, right, where we would have like a complex obstacle breach, where we would have a complex obstacle, meaning minefield, triple strand concertina wire fence. We would breach that. So you get the poor bastard out with a grappling hook and he'd we'd roll up in an RB-15. This shit would never happen in real life. Roll up in an RB-15, not now anyway. We all get out. I was on the 60, which is a 240 now, but I'm old. I was on the 60, and then some poor bastard would run up, throw the grappling hook, pull it through the minefield. We'd breach that. We'd get up to the triple strand. We'd simulate blowing it up. There'd be a Humvee. I'd yank it apart, and then I was the guy. I'd run through, and I'd butt stroke this dummy that said Navy at the end of it. And I would yell, "God loves sappers because we keep his heavens full of fresh souls." And I'd run over, and I'd take the watermelon and smear it on my face. It was horrible. The moral of that story is
grown up.
When we taught when we gave the class, I was chewing Red Man like crazy. So there was like minefields of Red Man all over. And this cadet, which was a female, which you can't tell because they're in camo and they have to wear a Kevlar. I mean, face first, right? Put her hand in it at first, pulled her hand up, slipped, head fell in it, huge wad. And then she was complaining, and then I made some stupid comment, and shortly after that I realized she was a woman. Camoed up, I couldn't tell.
Yeah.
And then it was nixed for the red man portion of it, which is when I transferred to Copenhagen. Was that exact moment? And then the first time I chewed Copenhagen, I was dizzy. I mean, it's a different level of nicotine. I'm not going to lie. You're stepping up from red man to that. But anyway,
oh man,
enough about chew. Don't chew, kids. It's bad for you. It's expensive, and they'll give you cancer. Where's my chew?
I gotta admit, you've got some good genetics.
I will say
of longevity.
Longevity, I've got that on my side. My family, they live forever.
So we'll see. We'll see. I mean, because you don't sleep, and
no, I don't. Not
and
very much.
You push yourself to some limits. So I'd like to see you be around for a while longer.
Hopefully, I'll make it. Although with the current situation in my life right now, I may die of stress. So hopefully that goes away soon. But it is what it is. Yeah.
All right, folks. Thanks for tuning in to the Gritty Bowmen. Send your questions in to grittybowmen@grittybowmen.com. And
expect an answer 30% of the time, all the time.
Stay gritty.
The future of public lands. All of us own them, all of us use them. Political activists are demanding us to hand over the public lands where the state's legislators could transfer and control these lands. U.S. citizens own 640 million acres of public lands, which creates 6.1 million jobs and generates $646 billion per year.
States have been selling off land to pay bills for over 100 years, thus closing access to the public. 39% of original 64 million acres have been sold. The cost of land management would break most state budgets. For instance, who will pay the hundreds of millions of dollars to fight major wildfires each year? It doesn't matter how many promises are made. The financial reality is it will force states to have to sell off our public land.
President Theodore Roosevelt said, "We must preserve our lands for future generations, not merely to the people now alive, but to the unborn people. Our duty to the whole bids us restrain an unprincipled present-day minority from wasting the heritage of these unborn generations."
This is Ty Stubblefield, and you're listening to the Gritty Bowmen.
Gritty Bowmen.